Today, my guest is Milan Kowalewski. Milan, I think, are you up in New York?
Up in New York.
Milan is up in New York, and Milan does marketing and media. So, of course, websites and all things digital. But today we're going to talk specifically about what you're doing with video.
My favorite
And
topic.
yeah, and we found you because of some of your work on your website and said, yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. He's using video in creative ways. He's in the healthcare space. I know you've done dermatology, you do aesthetics and plastics. So you understand the world of video, the world of elective procedures. And when we spoke on the phone, you mentioned you have this structure or strategy, and you have these 4 steps with how to creatively use video. And so that's what I'd love to hear more about that today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sort of the context behind this really began years ago. In fact, when I had left my corporate job, I was working in marketing. Always love marketing, but I was working in the IT side, and I didn't like it anymore. I wasn't enjoying myself, and got let go after 2 years, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I had a friend who was working for one of the top plastic surgeons here in New York City and said, "Hey, we'd be interested in, if you want to come and help us." And so I jumped on that. And, I thought, okay, this is going to be easy breezy because, how do you market the best? You just say, here he is, come on in, basically. So, I'm there on my first day. I'm walking down Park Avenue, Starbucks cup of coffee in my hand, excited as can be. And I get out of the elevator, and what do I see but another plastic surgeon marketing himself as being the best? And yeah, I know, right? What are the odds? And I
Yeah.
quickly realized, particularly here in New York City, if you draw a 1 mile square radius around this guy's office, you would find dozens of people, all of whom are marketing themselves the exact same way. And that is when it hit me that it is not enough to say what we do. We have to show what we do.
Mhm.
And and with this revelation, I hired a videographer, a photographer, took all of these great photos and videos, plastered it all over his website. At that time, Facebook was in its infancy, and we doubled his business in a matter of months. And so I have taken that model of showing what we do in our business, and taken on more clients. And as the years progressed, I was always looking for a videographer, and they're tend to be quite expensive. And I finally said, you know what? I'm going to master this myself, and I'm going to make this my superpower. And yeah. And so, as you said, while a lot of our clients hire us for website design and social media campaigns, really the video aspect has become this fundamental process. And we've been able to create this very simplified 4 step process because, as I'm sure you know, particularly with your clients as well in this space, everyone's moving. Everyone constantly has other things to do. They're busy. They don't have time to just sit in front of a camera for hours and perfect it. They need to go quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit background.
Yeah. And I do want to talk about the way you offer the service. But I don't know if that's maybe at the end we'll finish with that, your
Sure.
subscription model. But yeah, I guess can you present in a concise manner what are the four because the clinics that we visit, lots of them, well, I would not even say lots of them. Some of them use video. Um, a lot of them, they stumble just like me and my own company. We capture some content, but there's an art to it, right? You've got to capture the content. The content needs to be at least decent and it can't be all junk. And then you got to distribute the content to the right channels and it's got to be edited correctly and audio and the video. So I think
Absolutely.
everyone gets hung up on, it's, hey, either I pull my cell phone out and give something I just thought of a second ago, or I hire a professional video team and we have them come in and it looks beautiful and professional. Uh, there's got to be some happy middle ground there. So yeah, I would love to hear your 4 pillars or keys or steps to
Sure.
doing video.
Sure. And, one of my core philosophies in business and in marketing is really being resourceful. I don't like wasting my clients' time or money. I don't like wasting my time or money either. So every time we're going into a client's office and filming new video content, I'm always at the top of my mind thinking to myself, how can we leverage this to the maximum capability? And that being said, um, I've always tell my clients this one thing. Everyone is, on Instagram these days and want to be creating Instagram reels and stories and things like this. But I always tell them, I don't want us to be creating video content for Instagram. I want us to be creating video content for your business and then distributing it on Instagram. It's a very subtle shift, but very profound in action. And so, with that being said, this 4-step process that I work with my clients through, very very simple. It is create, edit, enhance, and distribute. And so, obviously, we can do a deep dive into all of these, but we'll skim the surface for today. When we're talking about the creation process, one of the things that I think people get stuck on is, well, what am I creating? What am I actually putting out there in the first place? And so I used to always say that there were 5 core videos that every business needs. Now I've actually expanded it to 6. And those are process videos, product videos, if you have a product in your business, promotional videos, FAQ videos, comparison, and testimonial videos. And so what I like to do with clients is very simply, we pick a service or a treatment that we want to focus on. Usually it's multiple, but let's say we're picking one, right? We pick that one and we literally go in there and we film it either live or mock. Best thing with this industry is a lot of these patients and clients, they have no idea if the machine is on. I've filmed so many things where the laser is actually off and nothing
Yeah.
is actually happening. No one has no idea. I mean, if you're in the industry, but patients
Yeah.
have no clue. So,
Yeah.
you can get away with this in mock treatment as well. So we'll film it from different angles. So we have a lot of different footage that we can pull that from. And then we'll go into what's called the A roll of the video, right? The primary footage that we're going to be jumping back and forth from. And the A roll typically is the narration. And this is the step where we're kind of sitting down and we're doing a formal interview with the client. And what I always like to say is, again, the question comes, okay, so what are we going to be talking about? And to me, it's a very simple conversation. It's, what do your patients or clients want to know? What are a list of questions? And typically they're all kind of the same: overview of the process, downtime, results, are there alternatives, you name it. And then just answer it in your own words, very simply. And then we'll go back and we will stitch these together. And this gets us to that edit phase, that edit process. And what I really like about this way of doing it is, when you start with the service or the treatment first, and then you ask all of these questions, you can then break this down into FAQ videos, the other core videos we mentioned, FAQ videos, comparison videos, all of these things, right? And I like to think about it in the editing process like a slinky. I'm going to show my age now. If anyone remembers back in the 90s, these toy
Oh yeah.
slinkies, right? If you're younger, it's okay. You just Google it, you'll find it. But these toy slinkies where it would expand and contrast going down the stairs. And I like to think of our video marketing content in the same exact way. We want to be able to expand your content to a 2.5 minute overview of the procedure that we can put on YouTube and embed on your website and share it galore, right? And then we want to contract that down into a 20-second to 30-second reel FAQ video, all the way down to a 10 to 15-second audio meme that we can put out there. And this is how we really start to leverage and maximize that content. So when I'm going in with a client, I mean, one service that we're filming, one treatment that we're filming, plus the questions that are being asked, literally we can get up to 10, sometimes a dozen different individual pieces of video content, which is lasting the entire month for this client. So we can get into the enhance phase as well, but I'll pause since I've been talking for a while. If there's any questions about
Yeah.
that.
No, I think that's fantastic. I think that's the whole part of the problem is some of these clinics do capture a great piece of content and then they post it to Facebook once. It's a 2.5 minute video. and the next day that thing's gone, right? The half life of any online attention. So yeah, the thought of getting all the mileage out of a piece of content and using it in different ways, we love that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
create, edit, and yeah, what do you mean by enhance?
So enhance, I like to think of this as putting the layers of the cake. We're cooking something delicious that we want our audience to feast on, right? So in practical terms, this looks like adding captions, adding royalty-free music, adding dynamic text effects. But one thing in particular, and I know that if your listeners are going to be filming video oneself, I mean, we could start getting into this realm, but Y one thing in particular, which I think is a pro tip in this enhance phase that I think will help and every single person listening to right now, is you always want to start your video with a solid hook. We wanna hook your audience's attention immediately. Think about how we are interacting with these social media platforms, right? Instagram in particular. We are literally on our phones, scrolling, 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 next, 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 until something captures our attention. So I like to look back at that footage, and your listeners can do this as well. Look back at what they've said in those answers, and pick something interesting out. What is one sentence? The first 3 seconds are the most important, where you can hook someone's attention. A little advanced tip after people get used to doing this. This is a type of a hook, which is known as a curiosity gap, right? So, a curiosity gap is the space in between what your audience knows and what they want to know. And sometimes that gap can be so strong, they have to know it. So, an example, this is like a silly example off the top of my head. Um, you know, could be something to the effect of most people think Botox is for smoothing your wrinkles, but did you know it can also help with excessive sweat? Now, clinicians and providers, this is going to sound really simple to them, but a lot of people out there, patients of theirs are not going to know that. So we just got to get a little creative when it comes to what is the hook? How can we make it interesting? How can we make it where people want to continue to consume this content?
Yeah. Okay. That's enhance and then distribute.
And then we get to that distribute phase. And I like to think of all of these social media platforms as if we're going to a party, right? So we got Facebook, which is the family reunion. We got Instagram, which is I don't know, the lounge party, after work cocktails. We have TikTok, which is the nightclub. And we have LinkedIn, that's the corporate, I don't know, corporate national meeting. We call it whatever we want, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the point of the matter is, you know, you wouldn't show up to dressed and acting the same way you would in a nightclub to a corporate event, right? There are a specific attire to start with, rules of behavior, engagement, all of these things. And the same thing is with these social media platforms. Now, of course, is there some overlay between content you're going to put out on Instagram and Facebook? Of course. But think about it from the sense of your audience, right? So I have a lot of clients who, interestingly, a lot of their following will be on Facebook, which sounds really counterintuitive, but that following, because everyone's talking about Instagram these days, but that following tends to be 50 and above, right? So if you know that your audience is on Facebook and you know that that's the age range that you're talking to, you're going to want to be creating content specifically geared towards them compared to something on TikTok where you might be a little bit more, open to creativity. Let's just say that, or a little bit loosey goosey, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Right.
So to be conscious of that, and that's where the distribution comes into play.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. Yeah. I do notice on LinkedIn, people will even say, hey, this is not appropriate for LinkedIn,
Right.
which is just funny. Yeah. So it's a very more cut and dry on LinkedIn. And do you use a certain, be- because I think what you're saying is advanced. If a surgeon or a practice manager is listening and they say, "Oh yeah, that sounds great, but we don't even have a presence on social media," what's the easiest way for us to just get some videos here in the clinic and get them out there? Because I have seen clinics that usually they hire some, young, tech savvy, energetic person, and that person becomes somehow in charge of, hey, every Tuesday during lunch, I'm gonna capture. There's a clinic I'm thinking of in particular. They did the two of the surgeons did a push up contest, and then she put it to music, and so she's putting cool, fun, real, true stuff out there, and it instantly changes the perception from the patients because right, it takes it from a sort of a nervous, quiet, stale environment to, hey, everyone who works in the clinic is still a person, right? They have kids, they have an Instagram personal page. They're still doing all these things. So it's not you don't have to button up to go into the clinic. These are people. And now from the outside, I see them, I get to know them, I hear their voices, and now I know what to expect when I walk through that front door. And there are people sitting behind on I call it on the other side of the glass, right? And you and I have been on the other side in the back of the clinic, but as a patient, you come in and they speak to you almost like you're a prisoner, and then you sit in the waiting room and it feels very closed off. And using video, I think, is a way to share with all those potential patients that are invisible to you now. They can get a sense of your personality and how you treat patients, and that just builds a little sense of trust. And that's the thing that's missing from people coming to see you and not is they just don't feel comfortable. And the moment they do, then you will see, more lead flow start to come in. So, uh, that was a very long speech and I got
No,
distracted.
yeah. Go
What I
ahead,
meant
sorry.
to ask you was, what about the clinic who says, how do we get started? Like tomorrow, what's the easiest way for us to get some decent video content and get some reps in?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I actually would love to address both of the things that you said because I think you hit on something really, really important in what you were saying. But in answer to your first question, how do you get started? And if you're watching the video right now, I'm going to be holding up exactly how we get started. It's called your iPhone or your Android if you have it. Going back to being resourceful, you know, I personally have a sort of a fancy pantsy Nikon DSLR camera. I grew into that. I never started with that. I started with what I had. I started with what I had available. And so that would be number one, my first tip in terms of how does one get started? You just pick it up and you just go. Now, what you said was also really interesting because as you continue, by the way, to pick your phone up and create your video content, it's that practice that's gonna make you more confident, more comfortable, doing this sort of stuff. But I wanted to hit upon something that you just said a minute ago, which was this idea of trust. And I want you to think for a moment, your listeners to think for a moment, the last time they were in a grocery store and they have all their carts in their item and they're going to the checkout aisle and they're ready to check out and they see this whole wall of gums and mints and all these candies on the side, right? How long does it take for someone to decide whether they want to pick up a pack of gum or mints or not? Typically, it's within seconds, if not nanoseconds. Sometimes we're not even thinking about it, right? We just pick it up and we go. Now, when a patient comes to one of your listeners' offices, or excuse me, comes to their website or their Instagram for the very first time, why is it that they are not picking up the phone and contacting them immediately? Why is that process so much longer versus the gum? And the reason is exactly what you just hit on right there, which is they haven't trusted you yet. You've probably heard, as your listeners as well, this concept of the know, like, and trust factor. You need to know who you are first, like what you have to say, and then trust that you're the right fit. And what video does is it builds trust faster than any other marketing platform out there because now you're not just seeing a photo of me, you're not just seeing some text I've written, you're seeing all of these nonverbal communications in my face, which is forming a relationship, which is what human beings do, right? So
Yep.
that is why video is so important and as it relates to generating new leads and generating new sales, how it can benefit.
And for that clinic who says, "Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna pull up my phone over lunch. I'm just gonna record a few videos. I'm gonna hand them off to someone." What would you say? What's the best way to start to distribute? Do you say, "Yeah, you can use one of the apps that will distribute it to all platforms, or hey, if you're just starting, just put it on Facebook and Instagram. What's the beginner's guide to putting it out there?
I would highly recommend choosing one platform to begin with. You can always expand and grow, but really starting with one platform that you like, that you know that your audience is like, that's also that excuse me, that you know that your audience is on. That's also very very important. Um, and master that platform. Personally, I think Instagram is one of the best options right now. Everyone is on there. You know, you want to be think of your social media like a town square, right? Where everyone is gathering and people are selling products and offering services and blah, blah, blah. You want to be in the town square where your ideal target audience is located. And these days, Instagram is a real great option. So yeah, I would pick one. And then again, go through this process of what type of service do we want to be promoting and talking about. Um, Film that service, real or mock. Create some questions that you know your audience has an interest in. Answer those questions. Stitch them together. And for this, I would highly recommend just hiring a freelancer, maybe on Fiverr or something like this. We want your listeners to be performing medicine, not being video editors, and outsourcing it in that way. Um, and and yeah, and that would be my best advice to get things rolling.
Yeah, that's great. Perfect. Well, Milan, thanks. I think I know you probably needed an hour or two to dive into all of those, but that's a great 15, 20-minute intro into creatively using video. So thanks for joining us today.
My goodness, thank you so much for having me, Maddie. It was such a pleasure. I had so much fun talking with you today.
Yeah. And also, of course, I'll link to Milan's website and contact info anywhere this is posted. So if you want to chase him down, you'll be able to do that.
Absolutely. Instagram's my jam. So at Milan Marketing Media, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out and send me a DM.